So I'm Dr. Mukta Katoch and I welcome you to today's session, that is Yoga Q&A. And we have with us Dr. Surinder Katoch, who is the founder and director of Katoch Holistic Health Center. I welcome you, ma'am, to today's session.
Thank you.
Okay. So friends, as we all know, today is International Yoga Day, and people around the globe are celebrating this in different ways. And the theme for for this year's Yoga Day is Yoga at Home and Yoga with Family. So we thought that for this concept, we should bring up a talk through which we can bust some myths and answer some queries that you have related to yoga. So moving ahead, in the present world, there are so many schools of thought related to yoga. And there are so many people who are teaching yoga. There are different methods, different ways in which they try to teach yoga. And one of the most commonly known and the most prominent form is power yoga. I would like to know, doctor, from you that what really is this power of yoga, and the things that are being told under this heading of power yoga, are they actually relevant, or is it something beyond that? Dr. Katoch, please.
Thank you so much, and a very happy International Yoga Day. Yes, Dr. Mukta, as you have already pointed out that a lot is happening under the name of the banner of Power Yoga. And under this banner, somehow we are focusing mainly upon the physical part of the yoga. Like maybe you are doing only Surya Namaskar and 100 times Surya Namaskar, and you lose weight also, and you build up a good figure of your body. This is not what I personally feel is the concept of yoga. Yoga is something much beyond this, And yoga has something to do with complete wellness and holistic health, where it takes care of the harmony within body, mind, organs and soul. So if we limit this yoga under the heading Power Yoga and limit it to the physical part, then that means we are not doing justice with the word yoga itself. So what I personally feel is yoga, the power of yoga is so big, which you can't even think of that where you can proceed just with performing the right and authentic part of yoga.
So I guess the power of yoga actually resides in the Ashtanga Yoga, which are the eight classes or the 8 branches of yoga. So doctor, can you tell us a little more about these 8 classes?
So this is what it is, that if a person wants to start yoga, so it's always best to proceed with the basics, and that is the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga, Asht means 8, Ang means 8 parts of yoga. So like when we do schooling, we start from 1st standard and go till the 10th standard. We can't directly jump to 10th standard. Similarly is Ashtanga Yoga. So 8 classes. So we should start with the first and then proceed gradually till the 8th standard. Once we do like this, then it is definitely we understand what is the concept and what is the power of yoga. So the first class amongst these 8 classes in Ashtanga Yoga, it's Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. So gradually we proceed from yamas and ultimately the 8th class is Samadhi. Yamas and niyamas are basic value education. In brief, we can say like this. There's certain duties and responsibilities for our own self and for the society. We are humans and we need to have human values. So this is what is in yamas and niyamas. And yamas are 5 and niyamas are 5. So ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. These are 5 yamas. Shuchi, Santosh, Swadhyay, Tapa and Ishwar Pranidhan. These are the 5 niyamas. Now, initially when we used to have this Guru Shishya Parampara, in that these all things used to be taught to a child till a child reaches the age of a teenage, like 13 years. So till 12 years of age, these yamas and niyamas were inculcated in that child right from the very beginning every day. Now, once this value education is there in a child, and a child has brought up with this, now nobody can shake this child because the pillars are strong. And 12 years, this child is on this phase. So this is what is. When we say ahimsa, ahimsa is non-violence. So non-violence doesn't mean that we are just hitting someone. We can do violence with kayak, vachik and mansik, all the three attributes. So we can speak certain words which can be so harsh, which can hurt someone. We can do violence by using our body. We can shoot a person. We can hit a person using our hands or our legs. So this is using the body. And mind, we can plan something for someone to destroy that person. So hurting anyone by any of these three levels, which is using the body, mind or the speech. So we are not supposed to do that. We should not hurt anyone. This is ahimsa, which is non-violence. Satya. Satya is truth. In daily routine, for small things we tell lies. And one lie is enough to disturb the inner even biochemistry. So we need to follow the path of truth, whatever may happen. We need to face the consequences. We tell lies only if we have done something wrong. So if you are on the right path, you don't have to tell lies. So just follow the path of truth, and if you have done anything wrong, then be strong enough to face the consequences. That is what the approach should be. So ahimsa, satya, asteya. Asteya is that we have a tendency to steal something of someone. Like it's very common in families today that children are busy in mobiles and parents are worried about it. Now if there is a small girl, maybe a teenager, and she has a mobile, now the mother or the father would be that with whom she is talking, what she is seeing. So they are very much concerned about it. So what they will do is, they don't have that much guts also to directly ask the child. Because otherwise the conversation will start and quarrel will start. So what they will do is, once the child has gone to washroom, or the child is getting ready, or the child has kept mobile somewhere, that is the time when parents will pick up the mobile and check. This is also stealing. So indirectly we are teaching the child. The action of a parent is teaching a child that stealing is the method to know something of someone. So for nothing we are not supposed to steal anything of anyone. And stealing, again we can use either speech or body or mind to steal anything of anyone. So this is non-stealing. Asteya is non-stealing. Then is brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, again it has number of meanings. One meaning being celibacy. The other meaning where I mainly focus upon as the human values are concerned, charya means you are moving. Brahm is moving where? The ultimate. So if you want to move towards the ultimate, we are already moving towards the ultimate. To reach that level, we need to have certain qualities. And that qualities are that of Brahman. So if we follow these 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, we enter into the basic class of brahmacharya. That is what is brahmacharya. Aparigraha, we have a tendency to collect things, to have number of things. Like nowadays, like we are on Facebook or Twitter or Insta. So what it is, we want to have number of friends. That is also parigraha. That's also parigraha. So once you have number of things, you want number of cars, you want number of dresses, you want number of shoes. Now what happens is, once you have to keep them safe, it ultimately ends up into a problem. Now what is happening? In the corona phase, what is happening? In the malls, the showrooms are there and the showrooms are full with dresses. Now because of the corona, the lockdown has started. Dresses are still there. The showrooms have shoes, they are still there. The showrooms have bags, they are still there. Now from months together, the shops are closed. Now that is parigraha. Of course it was for their business. But still now it tells us, have a limited business. because life is simple to live. We don't want so many things because excess is always bad. Similarly, we have lot of things in our mobile and mobile crashes. And we have collected number of things that again becomes a source of problem for us and we are into distress. So a habit of collecting number of things, either it is person, place or things, anything. So that becomes a problem. So yoga says aparigraha. Keep only those many persons, places and things with you, how much you can manage comfortably. That doesn't become a source of stress. So these are 5 yamas. Then is 5 niyamas. Shuchi. Shuchi is cleanliness. Lot of work has been done by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, always talking about cleanliness. Now this cleanliness is basically at the physical level, the environment. Keep your environment clean. So when I was a student, we used to have a wording, cleanliness is next to godliness. When we say who is God? So, and where does God live? God is within us and lives wherever there is cleanliness. So clean mind, clean body, clean environment. So when we talk about cleanliness, all the three need to be clean. If we enter into corruption and we then feel that Almighty is going to help us, hardly Almighty is that, because Almighty is within you, that power is within you. So cleanliness is extremely important, and that is first niyamas. Then is santosh. This is what is troubling all age groups today. Nobody is satisfied. You have a good job, still you're not satisfied. You have a good home, still you're not satisfied. You have children, still you're not satisfied. You don't have anything, then also you're not satisfied. If you have things, then also you're not satisfied. So this dissatisfaction has become a source of distress and source of stress in our lives. So it is that whatever you have, dream big, but be contented with what you have. This is santosh. Then is swadhyay. Swadhyay is, what is success? Regular study is key to success. Now, when I'm saying study, of course, when you want to be successful at the academic level, you have to study. So if you study properly, then only you will be successful. But that is success at the academic level. But now here, when in yoga we are talking about, then is success of your life. This human life is given to us for some meaningful attitude. We need to make our human life meaningful. So in that making the human life meaningful, we need to be knowledgeable. We need to gain knowledge from all aspects that how we can make this human life meaningful. So this is, we need to read certain scriptures, certain literatures on a regular basis. If we talk about religion, all religious books have beautiful things to enter into a zone of good human being. But we need to read them and not leave them. Read and enter into practical implementation of that. So once we keep on working upon this, that is what is Swadhyay for making our human life meaningful. And this we need to have a target. Everything is target oriented, but there is no target of this human life. So we need to have some target, that is tapa. And suppose if you are following all these, you have started following yamas, all 5 yamas, and the niyamas, the shuchi, santosh, swadhyay, tapa. You have made a target of your life. You want to achieve your goal, and that is making your human life meaningful. But you don't get success. In spite of working on all these classes, on these levels, you don't get success. Then the 5th is niyama is Ishwar Pranidhan, surrender. That is the beauty. Right now, when we were doing this programming, this program was basically to be done on Facebook. So you were trying to do it and we were not able to do it. So there was something wrong happening. Then immediately you tried and you switched on to Insta. Now Insta also we were trying how to proceed further. So my son asked me a question. That because he was helping me in this, I am not so much computer friendly, electronic friendly things. So my son told me that had you been alone, you would have thought what to do. I said, my son, Had I been alone, if I would have not been able to do it, I would surrender. The divinity says, don't do it. It's not for today. So that's what it is. We need to learn this in life, that we are doing everything to achieve something, but due to any reasons, if we are not able to achieve by following the right path also, then surrender. So that is divine will. So we need to have that divinity within us and try to see this divinity, this consciousness in living as well as non-living. These are the first two classes of yoga. But what is happening today is, when we say to people to perform yoga, they have a 45 minutes class, which is a physical class, and which has certain sukshmayam, the micro exercises right from head to toe, or few postures, the asanas. So limiting yoga only to this is actually not the power of yoga. Asanas are important, but that comes the third class, the asanas, which are the body postures. Then comes the fourth class, is the pranayam. Pranayam is exercise of breath. Prana is breath, ayam is exercise. So it is exercise of breath. So what happens is, once you are following the yamas and niyamas on a regular basis in daily routine, then gradually you enter into a zone where your mind comes under your control. And that is the beauty, that is the most important thing. So it's very common nowadays when we have all these chips and all the kurkure. So ad comes, kya kare control nahi hota. So kya kare control nahi hota does not work in yoga. We have to develop control on our mind, and these are the tools how to develop. So by following yamas and niyamas, the mind comes under control. Then we enter into the third class, which is asanas, which are all body postures. Again, we have to enter into a regular practice of it. And once we enter into a regular practice, then our body comes under our control. Then comes the fourth class, which is pranayam, exercise of breath. Regularly performing the pranayam, the breath comes under our control. You might have heard about that one yogi, he was declared dead, but actually he was controlling his breath. So he was not dead. So that is the power. We can control our breath. Fine. So this is what it is. By regular practice of pranayam, in a right basis, then you develop that control on breath. And the fifth class is pratyahar, where we need to develop control on our sense organs. So we have to go inwards, feel our inner silence. That is the beauty. So all these sense organs, once you are working upon this, the pratyahar part, and feeling your inner silence, then gradually a stage comes that once you are in this mode, then your sense organs, they do not hear the external stimulus. Your ears will not hear the ringing of the bell, because you have taken that sensation within yourself. You are trying to hear, you are trying to feel the harmony within yourself. The harmony of body, mind, organs and soul. This is the beauty. So this is pratyahar. So with pratyahar you develop control on your sense organs. Now see the beauty, starting from first class coming till the fifth class. This is a gradual moving forwards. So with the yamas and niyamas, developing control on mind, with asanas, developing control on your body, with pranayam, developing control on your breath, with pratyahar, developing control on your sense organs. Now starts the chapter of meditation, which is dharana, dhyan and samadhi. You can't meditate till you don't have control on the first five, because for meditation you have to enter into a posture. Suppose you are in Vajrasan, or you are in Sukhasana, or you are in Ardha Padmasana, or you are in Padmasana, any posture you have to sit continuously. But if you have not worked from the first till the fifth class, then you will not be able to sit, because some or the other part of your body will start paining. And you will feel that stimulus. That sensation will be there. So therefore, for dharana is, you want to focus. Meditation is focus. In general terms, we can say it's focus. So once you want to focus, either you are focusing on candlelight or you are focusing at the Agya Chakra towards the central part of your eyebrows, anything you are focusing on, or you are focusing on a particular thought. So anything you're focusing, you have to completely enter into convergence, the whole energy to come at one level, no disturbance at all. So this is what you end up into putting certain efforts, and you are there and you are able to focus. This is dharana. Dhyan is, now you're sitting and you want to meditate, you want to focus somewhere, but you don't have to put a lot of efforts, because that has become a part of your life, because from months and years together you are working upon it. Therefore you have developed that technique, that tool is there with you. So you take very less time to enter into a zone of meditation. And then is the samadhi, which is the end result. You yourself don't come to know where you are. So these are the 8 classes of yoga, and it is said that this life is actually a sadhana. This is sadhana. And how does sadhana happen? Abhyas or vairagya se parth hoti sadhana. This was told by Lord Krishna when we read Gita. So abhyas or vairagya. Abhyas is regular practice. Be persistent until you succeed. So this is regular practice. Vairagya is detachment. If you're always attached somewhere, you will not be able to enter into this zone, because this attachment is going to be a part of your miseries. So abhyas or vairagya se parth hoti sadhana, and this is how we need to proceed further if we really want to taste the flavor of yoga and feel the power of yoga.
Exactly, doctor. I think the power of yoga resides, exactly as you said, in the Ashtanga yoga. And people have forgotten that the first 2 steps especially, they are very important, and they are the stepping stone towards anything else that you do further in yoga. So, doctor, like you mentioned, the last 3 stages, that is dharana, dhyan and samadhi, they are the 3 stages of meditation. And I think meditation nowadays has become a fad. It's like a fashion statement and everybody is into it. But I think very less people understand what meditation actually is. So I want you to tell our viewers that what is meditation, and is it really necessary for everybody to meditate?
See, it's a very good question you have got. Because when I ask my patients that do you perform yoga? Almost every patient gives me the answer, yes, I'm very particular about yoga and I meditate every day. So I said, okay. And the disease with which they come to me is stress management. They're always under stress. And I had a patient who is like, if I don't perform yoga, I don't feel good. And since when are you performing yoga? From last 30-35 years, I'm into regular practice of yoga. And the treatment with which she came to me, the treatment for the disease which she wanted was anger management. She always used to be in a stage of huge anger. I am too angry, I get annoyed very soon. And so these things disturb me a lot. I told her, madam, if you are a regular practitioner of yoga and meditation from years together, more than 30 years, then ma'am, where is the scope for this stress and anger? So here sometimes we only befool ourselves that we are a regular practitioner of yoga and meditation. First is, if you have any psychological problem, the manasik samvek, काम क्रोध लोभ मोह शोक भय ईर्ष्या द्वेष, these are manasik samvek which, if they are not under your control, you should always take a help. Because if you are with these manasik samvek, काम क्रोध लोभ मोह शोक भय ईर्ष्या द्वेष, and they are not under your control, and then with these factors you are sitting for meditation and you are entering into a zone of complete silence and a focus, that time sometimes it may prove good, sometimes it can be rather harmful. Because I had a patient whose family life was at the verge of divorce. And this patient used to enter into a regular class of meditation being taken by a yoga teacher. Now, and he was in the general yoga class. I used to check his blood pressure. Before meditation, the blood pressure used to be normal. After meditation, the blood pressure used to increase. I thought meditation is very good for a patient who is suffering from hypertension. It's a treatment for hypertensive patients. But what is happening with this patient? After coming out after the meditation class, the BP increases, and that time I was working as a medical officer at Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga. This patient was there. I took the detailed history and then I came to know. I did the complete Prakriti analysis with this person because I wanted to rule out all the causes at the physical level, mental level, social level, spiritual level. And when I did the complete study for 4 to 5 days with him, then I came to know that his family life was very disturbed and he was at the verge of divorce. And when in the meditation class the person used to close the eyes and just focus, where was his focus? His focus was completely in the fight which used to happen between husband and wife. And that 30 minutes class or the 20 minutes class, he was totally in that fight. And when the yoga teacher used to say, हाथों को मले, आंखों पे रखें और धीरे धीरे आंखें खोले, that was the climax of his fight. And when he used to open his eyes used to be red and he was totally into that anger mode. And that time he used to come to me and I used to check his blood pressure. Obviously it had to be high. So therefore I initially took 7 more sessions with him to enter into the lifestyle counseling and psycho counseling part. And then I asked him, go ahead with the meditation classes. And that is the time when meditation helped. So once you are into serious psychological distress status, that time you should not just sit and meditate. First take help, take counseling, and all these regrets of life should be out from your life. And you should understand the mode, because meditation, and when we say yoga and Ayurveda work at the holistic approach, so it is physical, mental, social, spiritual well-being. So we want to enter into Adhyatmik Swasthya. This mindset we have when we are entering into meditation. So we want spiritual health, Adhyatmik Swasthya. So what? There are 6 qualities. Ichha, Dvesh, Sukh, Dukh, Prayatna, Buddhi. They are called Adhyatmik Gun. So if you want to start the chapter of Adhyatmik Swasthya, spiritual health in your life, then these 6 factors need to be under your control. We have to learn the strategies, the techniques, the tools. How to develop control on Ichha, these are desires. Dvesh is hatred. Sukh and Dukh, happiness and sorrows. Prayatna is always being effortful in life. And the intellect. All these need to be under our control. Then when we start with these parameters and these strategies, they work beautifully. So this is how, that's why we say, once we are doing anything, enter into the authentic mode, learn properly, and then enter into action. If we do like that, then we get a lot of benefits. If we don't do like that, then we don't get benefits. Rather, we can have, because yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, there is a myth in the public that these things don't have side effects. If anything which you will not do properly, it is going to have some of the other side effect. So therefore, learn properly, authentic manner, and then proceed.
Very well answered, Dr. Katoch. And I guess that makes us realize that meditation is not just to sit in one place and just close your eyes, but it is a state of being conscious. It's a state of being aware of yourself and your surroundings, as well as it is a state of having an unruffled focus, being focused at one thing. Yeah. So, Doctor, I came across this quote from Sri Aurobindo, which says, all life is yoga. But like you mentioned earlier, that for most of us, yoga is just a 45 minutes to 1 hour routine in our daily life. But how can we exactly incorporate yoga as a part of our everyday living and not just those 45 minutes or 1 hour? How can we do that?
See, a very well asked question. All life is yoga. This is what Sri Aurobindo said when he wrote a book on yoga. And what I personally also feel is absolutely true. The way you sit, the way you talk, the way you behave, the way you work, this all should be yogic. Now, to enter into this zone, again the basics. You can enter into a yogic life only when you have values with you. If we don't have values, then we cannot enter into a zone of yogic life. And these values, they are taught right from childhood. We need to imbibe these values. So, therefore, in everything, whatever we are doing, you are studying, you are working, you are playing, whatever you are doing, we need to have these yamas and niyamas with us in every second of our life. And if you have these qualities, like suppose you are a badminton player. Now, if you are a badminton player, you have to learn all the techniques, the whole education of that, and you need a complete focus. So when we are talking about meditation also, if your focus is not on the shuttle, you will not be able to hit it with the racket. So all those persons who are in the court, actually they are meditating. And that is what is life is yoga. They are, because meditation we say is a part of yoga, right? And they are totally meditating upon the shuttle, means they are performing yoga over there. So that is what it is, whatever you do. And if a person has those values, you cannot kick anything. Like suppose if there is a leaf in front of you and you want that area clean, you will not kick it. You will pick it up and in a decent manner you will keep that at proper place, because a yogic person sees consciousness in living and non-living things. So consciousness is there in non-living also. So we need to respect all non-living things. The leaf has been shed from the tree and is dead, is on the floor, but still we need to see consciousness is there. Even if there is a pebble, a stone. So a yogic person will not kick it. A yogic person will decently pick it up and keep it at proper place. So this is what is life is yoga. That consciousness is always there within you. So if these values are with us, we cannot speak wrong things. We cannot behave in an egoistic manner. Like what I'll say, I would like to comment upon here. We have the qualities of Shishya and Guru. But what I see nowadays, Guru में गरिमा नहीं है, शिष्य में शिष्य की qualities नहीं. So, and there is so much trigger in between the Guru Shishya Parampara, which was such a good bond. Who does like this? Because if life is yoga, then yoga is union. And when we are talking about life, so life is Sharir, Indriya, Sattva, Atma. These four things are there, then only life is there. If these four things are not there, we are not a living beings. So the harmony has to be developed between Sharir, Indriya, Sattva, Atma, the body, the organs, the mind and the soul. That harmony has to be developed. All those persons who behave at the egoistic levels, who think others are nothing, or think others, I am a very supreme person and I can handle everything and I can speak anything and others have to follow my command. Those people who work on these levels, actually, they don't have harmony within themselves. Because a person who has harmony within body, mind, organ and soul, and a person who knows yogic life, that person can never be egoistic like this. and never behave in a wrong manner with others, because that person has harmony within self, and this harmony now is transferred. This is what is we say yoga is a tool for self transformation. So by using this yogic knowledge, we enter into a zone of self transformation, and then what happens is your vibrations start working, and that harmony starts developing with whomsoever you meet. So if you are a teacher, you have a harmonious level with your students, you have harmonious level with your friends, you have harmonious level in the family. So with everything, you have harmony with nature, because you are at the harmonious level within your own self. This is yoga, is life. Whole life is yoga. So therefore, when vibrations start working, we spread harmony, we spread love. So whenever I also take a yoga class, I always say in the end, love yourself, accept yourself, respect yourself, and forgive yourself. Whenever the practical part of yoga, whenever I do or I teach, I always say these 4 lines, because once you start doing all these 4 with your own self, then you start giving it to others, and what happens is you start accepting the other person the way the person is. You start loving the other person, so you start respecting the other person, and whatever wrong the other person has done with you, you enter into a zone of forgiveness. So forget and forgive attitude starts. So this is what is life is yoga. We need to imbibe these qualities within ourselves, and once this goes, every action of yours becomes yogic.
That was very well put, doctor, and truly I think all life is yoga. And like you mentioned in your answer to the previous question, that yoga needs to be started from childhood. Related to that, there was a question that what would be the right age to start the practice of yoga, and till what age can we actually keep practicing yoga?
See, Dr. Mukta, right age of yoga. Now we need to know what yoga. Is it the physical part, the asanas we are talking about, or we are talking about the yogic values? And right, we are going initially with the Ashtanga yoga, with the yamas, and ultimately going to the meditation part, the samadhi part. If it is only the asanas, then yes, at least a child should be 6 years old minimum, and then we can gradually, slowly start and proceed further. But if we are talking the actual yogic power, the Ashtanga yoga or the yoga which we are talking about, what is yoga? Yoga is union. Union of what? When we are talking about life, so union between body, mind, organs and soul. How is it formed? How is this body formed? How is this life formed? That is also formed by a union. And that union is what? That union is a union of a sperm and an ovum. And the sperm and an ovum, they unite to form a zygote. Then the life starts. So when we are talking about what is the right age of yoga, so yoga starts before birth, before the formation of the zygote. So once this sperm and ovum, they are uniting, those two persons, they need to have a yogic attitude, because they are being responsible to give now life to someone. So we need to know our duties and responsibilities. So this has to be a very, very sattvic and a pious activity. We cannot give birth to, because we are human beings, we should give birth to humans, not to animals. So with the sattvic prakriti, so the right age of yoga starts before birth, according to me. Fine. Then the second part, the age of yoga. Once the lady who is pregnant and is going through that pregnancy phase for 7 to 9 months, because after 7 months the birth can take place. Throughout the pregnancy, there is Garbhani Paricharya in Ayurveda. That all the do's and don'ts regarding acharan, the behavior, the food. So ahara, nidra, brahmacharya, which we call the 3 pillars of health, all these are prescribed to a pregnant lady. So that is again the time of yoga. So yoga during pregnancy, not only the physical part, all the 8 classes. So this is what your question, what is the right age? So according to me, the yoga, the right age is from before birth, it should start. And till which age? Till death. So the whole life is yoga. I used to take classes in Indian Spinal and Injuries Hospital, New Delhi. That is a hospital, completely allopathic hospital. And I was the Ayurveda physician and taking yoga classes also over there because I'm an Ayurveda physician and a yoga expert. So the first day when I started doing the yoga class, so I asked all the participants, the patients over there, that I have come to teach yoga. How many of you think that you know yoga and you can perform yoga? Not even a single person told me that he or she can perform yoga. They said, "Doctor, we can't do yoga." I said, "Why can't you do yoga?" Because I had 45 patients over there and all 45 patients were on wheelchair. They were all on wheelchair. That's why I had put them the question. So they said, "We can't stand, therefore we can't perform yoga." So I said, who told you that for performing yoga or for doing yoga you need to stand? It's not essential. So that means we don't even know yoga, the meaning of yoga. So yoga samatvam uchyate.
Well, I don't think anybody would have thought of yoga in that way, and that's incredible that yoga is something that needs to be started prior to fertilization and till you take your last breath. So now, doctor, it's time to answer a few questions that our viewers have asked us. So, doctor, the first question is that what is the best platform or media to learn yoga for myself for future clinical purpose?
If you want to limit yourself, then you can enter into a 3-month course or a 6-month course. But if you want to enter into a clinical practice of yoga, then a minimum of 1-year course. So if it is you are a graduate and you want to now use this yogic knowledge for clinical practice, then a minimum what you need to do is 1-year postgraduate diploma course in yoga. This is a minimum thing you need to do. And there are a number of institutes you need to do these courses. Like in Delhi, we have the Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga. So this has 1 month course also, 3 months course also, 6 months course also. They are all certificate courses. And then there is the 1-year postgraduate diploma course in yoga. And then comes the BSc Yogic Sciences. So it depends what your area of interest is. You need to enter into a complete course for that if you are entering into a zone of clinical practice.
So, doctor, I have another enthusiastic first year who asked very good questions for almost all my live sessions, and she's asked another one today. Her question is, I perform yoga every day, but if I skip a single day because of not having time on that particular day, a severe headache starts. Does this mean that yoga is an addiction? And what can be the reason of this headache, and what can be its possible cure?
The point is yoga an addiction? I would say, being addicted to any substances, it is better to be addicted to yoga. So, because yoga is life, so here what I am talking about yoga is not the physical practice. I am talking about what I said before, that whole life is yoga, and we should get addicted to this type of knowledge of yoga for entering into the actually value education and being good citizens and good humans. But your point is going towards the physical part of yoga. Means you may be practicing the physical part of yoga, maybe 45-minute session or 1 hour session, and in that you have seen that the day you don't perform it, then you have headache. Now, yoga, once you are performing the physical part of yoga, then definitely that improves the whole body circulation. and gives flexibility to your spine and all your joints, all your muscles, the whole nervous system that gets activated. Now the day you are not performing yoga means, and you're having headache. Now headache can be because of number of reasons. I don't think so this has a direct link that you're not performing yoga and you're having headache. There can be number of reasons for headache. One can be, check your sleep pattern. We should always start from the simplest causes. So one of the simplest cause would be, check your sleep pattern. Are you having a good sleep of 7 to 8 hours at night? Because deprivation of sleep is a cause of headache. So if it is there, if you are not having a 7 to 8 hours of proper night sleep, if you are having a disturbed sleep, if you are sleeping late at night, means you are sleeping after 10 p.m., these all things become cause of deprivation of sleep and a cause of headache. So first try to rule out this. If it is this, just correct it and your headache will go off. This is first cause. Second is, just check your vision, your eyesight, because you're a student. So being a student, you have to study and read books. So is your vision okay? So because this again is a cause for headache. So if your vision is okay, then means that is not the cause. But maybe that the vision is not okay, so you should go to the eye specialist and get your vision corrected. And if there is anything wrong, get it corrected. Or if you have to wear specs and all, so just proceed further. That could be the cause. And thirdly is that are you too much into a sitting posture? That means on a regular basis, is your life very sedentary? You are not into physical activity at all? Because sedentary life, and do you think that life is exciting to you, or you think the life is boring? Because this has a lot to do with your mood. This has a lot to do with your food. So if you're staying in hostel, are you liking the hostel or not? If you're staying in family, are you in sync with the family members or not? So these all things count a lot for headaches. Because I had a patient, I ruled out all causes of headache. I didn't get any cause. Ultimately, when I entered into the in-depth study of that person, tried to understand the person, the cause of headache was the room itself. When that person used to enter his room, he used to get headache, because when he used to open his window, the person who was in the next home, that was an irritable personality for this man. So he always had that thought process. Now I'm going home and now that irritation is going to come forward. So then I had to work upon that line, that how to enter into a zone to remove that irritability. So there are a number of causes for headache. So whatever I've told, you just focus upon. If any of these are, try to work upon them. If not, then we go towards diseases. So I don't think so that there would be any other cause. If these are the things, anything, then you just rule out that, because otherwise then we go for bigger things, and the bigger things can also be a tumor. So that also could be a cause for headache. So I never switch on to bigger things just at the very beginning. So we always have provisional diagnosis and then we enter into final diagnosis. So by entering into a status of differential diagnosis. So differentiate everything and then ultimately comes. So I think if you work upon these, you'll get the answers.
Yes, that's true. And I think her question was also on that whether this yoga practice is turning into an addiction or not. So, I mean, for people, many people who are into daily practice of yoga, if they skip a day, they tend to get a panic attack that, oh my God, I've missed my yoga today. So for these kind of people, I think my advice, and I think from your end also it would be the same, that if then miss ho gaya, then let it be, just let it go. You don't need to be stuck on the fact that you missed it and now you're going to spoil your whole day just thinking that aaj maine miss kar diya yoga. So just like when you go to a gym, you have a cheat day. So it's okay that one day you're not feeling like to do it and you want to take a break. It's absolutely okay to take a break from the physical part of yoga. You can always be in sync with the other parts of yoga that there are. So Dr.
Very true and rightly said, because the persons who enter into a panicky status, if they miss a single day of yoga, it is because they don't do yoga in the authentic manner. Because if these yamas and niyamas they follow, they will never enter into panicky attack. And they will never, oh my goodness, because this is way, because when I take yoga class, I've seen that especially the teenagers and the 20s, oh my goodness, I've missed yoga, and there's so much of panic in them. Okay, surrender, today was not the day for yoga. So once you have those 10 things with you, the 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, nothing is going to make you panicky. So that's what it is.
So, doctor, there's another question that if someone cannot do yoga in the morning, is it okay to do the same practice in the evening before dinner?
Definitely, yoga time should be morning, but due to any reason, it is important to do it. That is important. So, due to any reason, this yoga morning and evening, I think we are talking for the physical part of yoga, the asanas, the sukshmayam and the asanas. So it's better to do in the morning, and I would rather say during the sunrise part and when the sun rays are there, so that you go out in the nature and perform yoga, that is the best time. But due to any reason, if you are not able to do it in the morning, hardly matters. You do it at any time which you are comfortable, because yoga you need to have a comfortable time. You should not perform yoga when you have number of works at hand. So that part, that time is only your time, nothing else. No mobile, no other work, nothing else. So first you need to chalk out that time of your daily schedule. And if it comes up to be the evening, then no harm. You can do in the evening also, but the only thing which you need to keep in mind is don't perform yoga just after food. So there has to be a gap of a minimum of 3 to 4 hours. Once you've taken meals, then minimum of 3 to 4 hours, that gap should be there, and then you can perform yoga, hardly matters.
So with this, I think because there are no more questions here, we come towards the end of today's session. And I just said, Yogo Moksha Pravartakaha. That means yoga is the pathway to salvation. And therefore, it becomes even more important for us to incorporate these principles into our everyday living and make our entire life a yogic life. So thank you, Dr. Surinder Katoj, for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on board. Also, thank you to all our viewers for being here, for tuning in and for asking some amazing questions. Happy International Yoga Day to all of you. Happy World Music Day and happy Father's Day. So have a good day ahead. Thank you and bye-bye. Namaskar.
Thank you.